What is the difference between a religious order priest and a diocesan priest?
So just in terms of the priesthood, the priests are the same. So as a religious order priest, I am a priest of Jesus Christ, according to the order of Melchizedek. And the priesthood and that call to offer sacrifice on behalf of the faithful, to be a spiritual father to the faithful, religious order priest and diocesan priest are the same in that. So we hear confessions, anoint the sick, offer mass, preach, do those things. For a religious order priest, though, and this is where it starts to get a little more technical and a little more into the weeds, religious order priests, they take vows, and diocesan priests make promises. So that, and this is again technical and probably too much information, but it is a valuable distinction. Just religious order priests will live in community and they take vows to God. So a vow is a promise made directly to God to commit to this religious community and the charism or the work that they do for the church. A diocesan priest is going to make a promise to the bishop, to God. He's still making a promise to God, but it's through the bishop and to his successors, the bishop's successors, to be a priest of that diocese and to do the work where the bishop sends him to work in a particular diocese. So for all of you, the Diocese of Wichita. And so there would be some, that would be your main source of work for a diocesan priest. The religious order priests, I guess I would, if I could use a military example, I kind of like to look at diocesan priests. They're the kind of like Green Berets who are right there, and they're the force multipliers in the local parish. So they're doing the hard work of building up the church and fighting the devil at the local parish. Religious order priests, Fathers of Mercy, maybe more like Navy SEALs who go out and they come back, and they might go out in groups and come back to do the work. So there's a high level work that's going on, but it's the difference between, and again, it's kind of technical, but where the diocesan priests stay in one place, in particular, my religious community, the Fathers of Mercy, or maybe Franciscans, Dominicans, they might go out in groups and do work and then go back to their main house for a time to pray and live in community. So that's the other element too that I've left out. Religious order priests are going to live in community by and large. There's some do live by themselves, but you think of the Benedictines, you think of the Franciscans, the Dominicans, the Jesuits, Fathers of Mercy. We do have houses where we try to live in brotherhood. And a lot of diocesan priests live on their own or just with one or two other priests, whereas religious order priests will live in a group. And there's value in both, certainly. But especially for order priests, that life in community there's fraternity there. It's also very purifying because your brothers hold you to accountability. And so it knocks off your rough edges. And so if you, well, I don't know, I guess I'd like my grandpa used to say, if you get too big for your britches and you think you're better than you are, your brothers generally will remind you that you aren't as smart as you think you are. So there's practical benefits to both. Further differences between religious order priests and diocesan priests would be religious order priests do take the 3 vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Now, religious take them as vows. Diocesan priests are going to make something like poverty, chastity, and obedience in their promises to the bishop. So but they don't take them expressly as poverty per se isn't a promise that a diocesan priest is going to make. He's going to make a promise to live according to the gospel for sure. Obviously, he's going to make a promise of celibacy, which is very similar and practically the same as the vow of chastity that the religious order priest makes. And the promise of obedience is going to be almost identical to what the vow of obedience that the religious order priest makes. But again, the intensity that a religious order priest lives out, especially the obedience, but the poverty and the chastity as well. That's probably the life of a religious in making the vow of poverty. It does not mean that we live destitute. It doesn't mean we have dirt floors in our cells. I mean, we still have to buy cars and buy gas and food and do all those things. But especially with poverty, what it means is that I don't have a paycheck. I don't get to spend money. I have a little bit of what we call a recreation fund. So, I get to go out for supper from time to time, and I can get stuff. I have fun things that I can still do. But I am depending on the religious order completely for that, and I don't have a retirement fund, so I'm going to be depending on the community. When I come to my older years, I'm still going to be living in the community. And whereas maybe a diocesan priest is saved up for his retirement, I'm going to depend on the community for that. And so the life of poverty is something we take very seriously. What does poverty look like, though, in the 21st century in, first world America? I've still got one of these. They don't necessarily make you smarter, but I do, I have a cell phone, and warm clothes and all those things. But the three vows in living that and vowing myself to that, promising myself to live this way of life, it's an intensified way of living out those evangelical counsels of poverty, chastity, and obedience. That is a difference from the diocesan priesthood. Again, diocesan priests are living this as well, but it's intensified in the religious life.